What if I told you that sitting in an old coffee tin, buried in a dusty drawer, or hiding inside a forgotten piggy bank right now, there is a small copper nickel coin, a Jefferson nickel minted between 1939 and 1947. That could be worth anywhere from $100 to over $1,000 in certified mint condition. Yes, you heard right, 1939 P-double Monticello variety. This variety shows clear, dramatic doubling on the lettering, Monticello, on the reverse. He grade certified MS65, MS66 examples have brought extremely high auction prices from $1,500 to $23,500. 1939D or 1939S, reverse of 1940. These are considered key dates due to die varieties. A 1939D, with the reverse of 1940 in MS66 full steps, can sell for significant amounts, from $5,000 to $26,000 plus, because the lettering on the back is sharper than standard 1939 issues. 1942D, D, over horizontal D. This is highly desirable to era collectors. It features a horizontal D mint mark punched under the normal D. Examples with the full steps. Designations showing complete details of Monticello are the most valuable, with value over $4,600 to $10,000 plus, according to PCGS. 1946D, D, over inverted D, a repunched mint mark variety where the first D was upside down, creating a distinctive error. The value of this variety is over $13,500. Valuable war nickel errors from 1942 to 1945. During World War II, nickels were made with 35% silver, and several errors from this period are valuable. 1943 P3 over 2 overdate. This error occurred when a 1943 dot was punched over a 1942 dot. It is highly sought after by collectors, with value over $16,450. Plus, the prices for these coins vary significantly based on their grade condition and full steps designation. The highest prices for these coins certified by reputable services like PCGS or NGCS. The 5 Jefferson Nickels we are presenting to you. These 5 Jefferson Nickels transform from pocket change into prized collector trophies, commanding prices that will absolutely shock you. So do not go anywhere. Do not skip this video, because whether you are a seasoned numismatist who has been hunting full steps Jefferson Nickels for decades, or you are a brand new collector who just discovered that a handful of old nickels from Grandma's estate might be worth serious money, what we are about to show you is going to change the way you look at every single Jefferson nickel you ever touch for the rest of your life. Stay with us. The coins are about to speak for themselves, and what they have to say is absolutely stunning. What if I told you that sitting inside an old jar, tucked away in a dusty drawer, or lost inside a forgotten coin collection in your attic, there might be a 1939 Jefferson nickel so breathtakingly rare, so jaw-droppingly valuable, that coin collectors from around the world would fight tooth and nail to get their hands on it? Because the staggering truth about the 1939 Jefferson nickel is that this seemingly ordinary 5-cent piece is one of the most explosively collectible, shockingly misunderstood, and dangerously underestimated coins in all of American numismatic history. And here is exactly why you need to stop everything you are doing and pay very close attention right now. Because the 1939 Jefferson nickel was born in a world gripped by chaos, struck at a pivotal turning point when America was crawling out of the catastrophic ruins of the Great Depression, and the entire civilized world was holding its breath on the eve of World War II. And it was precisely in this electrically charged, historically explosive year of 1939 that the United States Mint unleashed a coin that would forever alter the landscape of American coinage. Because the Jefferson nickel series had only just launched in 1938, replacing the iconic Buffalo nickel that had captured the hearts of generations. And by 1939, the mint was still in the white-hot infancy of this revolutionary new design. Crafted by the extraordinarily gifted sculptor Felix Schlag, whose breathtaking portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his magnificent architectural rendering of Monticello on the reverse made this coin an instant masterpiece from the very first strike. And what makes the 1939 Jefferson nickel so devastatingly compelling to collectors is the combination of its 3 separate mint issues: the 1939 Philadelphia, the 1939D from Denver, and the 1939S from San Francisco, each one carrying its own explosive story of scarcity, demand, and mind-blowing auction results that will absolutely leave your jaw on the floor. Because, while the Philadelphia Mint hammered out a relatively generous 120,615,000 examples of the 1939 Jefferson nickel, making the plain 1939P a common, workhorse coin in circulated grades, the story transforms into something frighteningly different the moment you shift your gaze toward the Denver Mint's 1939D. which produced a criminally low mintage of just 3,514,000 coins, a number so shockingly small compared to Philadelphia's output that the 1939D Jefferson Nickel immediately rockets into the upper echelon of key-date nickels in this beloved series. And when you combine that terrifyingly low mintage with the brutal reality that most 1939D nickels were spent, worn, lost, or destroyed over the past 8 decades of circulation, the surviving population of high-grade mint state examples becomes so devastatingly scarce that certified specimens graded MS65 full steps by PCGS or NGC, those magical coins showing sharp, fully struck steps on Monticello's facade, the holy grail detail that separates ordinary Jefferson Nickels from transcendent, numismatic treasures, have sold at heritage auctions and Stack's Bowers for figures that would make your heart stop, with pristine examples in MS66 full steps and MS67 full steps, commanding prices ranging from several $1,000s all the way up to eye-watering sums that remind you exactly why the world's most obsessive collectors keep an iron grip on their finest specimens and refuse to let go at any price. And then there is the 1939S from the San Francisco Mint, which struck a mintage of just 6,630,000 pieces. And while that number is larger than Denver's catastrophically low output, the 1939s carries its own spectacular secret that sends collectors into a frenzy. The full steps designation on this date is notoriously, almost impossibly difficult to find because the San Francisco Mint's die quality and strike pressure in 1959 routinely produced softly struck coins that failed to fully render those critical steps on Monticello, meaning a sharply struck 1939S Jefferson nickel in full steps condition is an absolute white whale that serious collectors pursue with obsessive, almost desperate determination, and the certified population reports from PCGS and NGC confirm this brutal reality, showing that the number of 1939S nickels achieving the full step standard in grades above MS65 is so shockingly thin that when one does surface at a major auction house, the bidding erupts into a ferocious battle of wills between deep collectors who understand exactly how rare these coins truly are. And beyond the 3 regular issue 1939 nickels, there is one more electrifying chapter in this coin story that you absolutely cannot ignore: the 1939 Jefferson Nickel doubled die reverse, a dramatic error variety caused when the working die received a misaligned secondary impression during the hubbing process, resulting in a coin where the design elements on the reverse show a spectacular, unmistakable doubling that is visible to the naked eye on the steps of Monticello and the architectural details of the building. And this variety is so explosively sought after that examples certified by PCGS or NGC command enormous premiums over their normal counterparts, with high-grade specimens appearing at heritage auctions and being described by numismatic experts as among the most exciting era coins produced during the early years of the Jefferson Nickels series, and the broader collector community has never stopped talking about it, because every time one crosses the auction block, it generates a level of electricity and competitive bidding that reminds the entire hobby just how ferociously passionate Jefferson Nickel collectors truly are, and what you need to understand about building a Jefferson Nickel collection or about selling one you have stumbled upon is that the grading standards applied by PCGS and NGC are absolutely merciless when it comes to the full steps designation, because the coin must show a minimum of 5 complete, fully separated, sharply defined steps on Monticello's portico to qualify, and even the slightest weakness, bag mark, or die fatigue in that critical area will cause the coin to fail the standard, which is precisely why a 1939D Jefferson Nickel that makes the cut in MS65 full steps represents a coin that has survived 80+ years in perfect condition, while virtually every other example from that Denver mintage has been worn smooth in someone's pocket, spent at a soda fountain, lost down a drain, or melted into oblivion. And if you think the prices mentioned so far are shocking, consider that the very finest known examples of the 1939D and 1939S in full steps grades certified by PCGS sit in elite registry sets owned by collectors who have spent years and small fortunes assembling the pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel numismatics, and these register quality coins represent the absolute summit of what is achievable with this series. Coins so perfect, so razor sharp, so magnificently preserved that they stand as living proof that even an everyday 5-cent piece struck in a year of global turmoil can become a numismatic artifact of breathtaking beauty and staggering monetary value. So whether you are a seasoned collector who already knows the heart-pounding thrill of pulling a full steps Jefferson Nickel out of a roll, or you are someone who just discovered a handful of old nickels and is wondering if any of them could be worth a fortune, The message is clear: the 1939 Jefferson nickel in all its varieties. From the common Philadelphia issue to the electrifying 1939D and the elusive 1939S. From the standard strikes to the dramatic double-die reverse error. Represents one of the most compelling and rewarding areas of American coin collecting. A series where knowledge is power, where condition is everything, and where a single coin from a single year can mean the difference between pocket change and a life-changing discovery. So check your coins, check your collections, get your Jefferson Nickels graded by PCGS or NGC if they look sharp and original. And if you found this video as explosive and eye-opening as the coins we just covered, smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel right now so you never miss another stunning numismatic revelation. And drop a comment below telling me the oldest or most valuable Jefferson nickel you have ever found, because in this hobby, the next incredible coin could already be sitting right in front of you. Asterisk. If you have a 1939 Jefferson nickel and you want top dollar, stop right there, because how you sell this coin will determine whether you walk away with pocket change or a jaw-dropping payday. First, never, and I mean never, clean it. Because a cleaned coin loses up to 80% of its value instantly, and every serious buyer will reject it on sight. Second, check the mint mark. If there is a tiny D below Monticello, it is the rare Denver issue with only 3.5 million minted, and if it looks razor sharp with fully defined steps on Monticello's portico, you are holding a full steps coin worth potentially thousands of dollars. So before you do anything else, send it to PC or NGC for professional grading, because a certified full steps example will explode in value compared to a raw, ungraded coin. Third, once graded, sell it the right way. Submit it to Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, where the world's most obsessive collectors compete fiercely and drive prices to their absolute ceiling. Never sell to a local coin shop first, because dealers buy low to resell for profit, and you will leave serious money on the table. One sharp 1939D Jefferson nickel in MS65, full steps, could fund your next vacation, so grade it, certify it, and auction it like the treasure it truly is. Like and subscribe for more coin selling secrets that could change your life. What if I told you that sitting in an old shoebox, tucked away in someone's attic, or buried in a forgotten coin jar, there might be a single small coin, a 1940 Jefferson nickel, that could be worth far more than the 5 cents stamped on its face, a coin so historically loaded, so deceptively rare in its finest forms, and so shockingly overlooked by millions of people, that collectors across America are hunting it down with a ferocity that would absolutely stun you. The 1940 Jefferson nickel is not just a coin. It is a time capsule forged in the fires of one of the most turbulent and world-altering decades in all of human history. Struck at a moment when America stood on the razor's edge between the Great Depression's lingering devastation and the apocalyptic thunder of World War II that was already consuming Europe and Asia. And yet, here was the United States Mint, churning out this elegant little 5-cent piece bearing the immortal profile of Thomas Jefferson and the breathtaking image of his beloved Monticello mansion. A design created by the sculptor Felix Schlag that beat out nearly 400 other competing designs in a public contest. And the shocking truth is that most people who find one of these coins today have absolutely no idea what they might actually be holding. The 1940 Jefferson nickel was produced across 3 mint facilities in staggering numbers that seem, at first glance, to suggest this coin is nothing but common pocket change. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck an eye-popping 176,499,158 pieces, while the Denver Mint added another 43,540,000 coins to the supply, and the San Francisco Mint contributed a comparatively modest 39,690,000 examples bearing its distinctive S mint mark. But here is where the story becomes absolutely electrifying, because raw mintage numbers mean almost nothing in the world of serious numismatics when you understand the brutal reality of coin survival rates and the devastating role that circulation, time, and human indifference play in destroying one's common coins into genuinely scarce treasures. And the 1940 Jefferson nickel is one of the most jaw-dropping examples of this phenomenon in all of American coinage history. The condition grading system used by the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most powerful and respected third-party grading authorities on the planet, reveals a truth about the 1940 Jefferson nickel that should make every coin hunter's heart race with excitement. Because while worn circulated examples of this coin are indeed abundant and worth only modest premiums, the story changes with breathtaking drama the moment you start climbing the Sheldon grading scale toward mint state territory. And by the time you reach the rarefied heights of MS65 full steps, meaning the coin not only grades as gem mint state but also displays fully struck sharply defined steps on the facade of mintage, a designation so demanding and so difficult to achieve that even examples that left the mint in perfect condition frequently failed to qualify. The populations become shockingly, almost unbelievably thin, transforming what appears to be a common wartime nickel into one of the most coveted condition rarities in the entire Jefferson Nickels series. The full steps designation is the secret weapon that separates casual collectors from the obsessed. The initiated, the serious numismatists who understand that the Jefferson Nickels series is one of the most technically demanding and rewarding areas of American coin collecting precisely because achieving a full steps designation requires not just an absence of wear but a positive presence of extraordinary strike quality, meaning the dies that produced the coin had to be fresh and sharp, properly aligned, struck with sufficient pressure. And the planchette itself had to be perfectly prepared, a convergence of manufacturing perfection that simply did not happen with every coin that rolled off the presses in 1940, making the certified full steps survivors. Genuine numismatic treasures that command prices in auction that would make your head spin. At major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, the undisputed giant of numismatic sales, and Stack's Bowers Galleries, another legendary name in the coin auction world. Examples of the 1940 Philadelphia issue graded MS-65 full steps by PC or NGC have crossed the auction block for prices that dwarf their humble face value by factors of thousands, with exceptional examples pushing into the hundreds of dollars range and the finest known specimens, those elite coins occupying the very top of the population report, representing investments that sophisticated collectors pursue with the same intensity that art collectors bring to a rare Picasso or Rembrandt. Because in the world of numismatics, conditioned rarity is king. And the finest 1940 Jefferson Nickels full steps coins reign over their series with absolute authority. What makes the search for a high-grade 1940 Jefferson Nickels so thrillingly addictive is the very real possibility, the maddening, tantalizing, genuinely documented reality, that exceptional examples still lurk in untouched collections, estate sales, and old-time accumulations, assembled by collectors decades ago, who simply stacked coins away without realizing what they had. In every single roll of 1940 Jefferson Nickels that gets cracked open by a modern collector represents a potential discovery moment. The kind of heart-pounding instant where a coin slides out of its paper wrapper and catches the light at just the right angle to reveal fully struck Monticello steps gleaming with original mint luster. And in that moment, a piece of 1940 American history becomes something extraordinary, a numismatic treasure hiding in plain sight for decades. The historical context surrounding the 1940 Jefferson Nickels adds yet another layer of profound fascination to an already compelling coin. Because 1940 was the year that France fell to Nazi Germany in a catastrophic 6-week military campaign that shocked the entire world. The year that Winston Churchill delivered his immortal speeches vowing that Britain would fight on the beaches and in the streets and never surrender. The year that the Battle of Britain raged in the skies above England while America desperately debated whether to enter a war that was clearly threatening to engulf the entire globe. And through all of this geopolitical upheaval, the American Mint continued its work, striking these Jefferson Nickels by the millions as American workers earned their paychecks, spent their money, and went about their daily lives in a country that was just barely emerging from the nightmare of the Depression, but hurtling toward the next catastrophe. And every 1940 Jefferson Nickels that survives today in magnificent, uncirculated condition is a physical artifact of that exact moment in time, a metallic witness to one of history's most pivotal years. For collectors who want to build a truly spectacular Jefferson Nickels set, the 1940 issues across all three mints represent essential and exciting acquisitions, with the Philadelphia issue being the most intensely scrutinized for full steps quality, given its enormous mintage and the resulting rarity of well-struck survivors, while the Denver D Mintmark and San Francisco S Mintmark examples bring their own passionate followings. Among registry set collectors competing on the PCGS and NGC set registries to assemble the finest known complete Jefferson Nickels collections. In the world of competition so fierce and so financially intense that it drives prices for the finest graded coins to levels that would genuinely astonish anyone who still thinks of Jefferson Nickels as mere pocket change. The diagnostic features that distinguish the finest 1940 Jefferson Nickels from merely ordinary examples include not just the all-important full steps designation, but also the quality of Jefferson's portrait strike, particularly the high points of his cheekbone and the detailed definition of his hair, the depth and originality of the coin's mint luster. Whether it displays the frosty cartwheel luster of a perfectly preserved mint state coin or the duller contact-marked surfaces of an example that spent time knocking around in a mint bag against hundreds of its fellow coins, and the complete absence of post-mint damage, cleaning, or environmental exposure that has destroyed the numismatic value of countless otherwise wonderful coins, turning potential treasures into common problem coins worth only a fraction of their properly preserved counterparts. The undeniable truth that makes the 1940 Jefferson nickel such a mesmerizing subject for any coin enthusiast. Whether you are a seasoned professional or someone who just found an old coin and typed its date into a search engine out of pure curiosity, is that this coin represents everything that makes American numismatics so endlessly exciting. The intersection of accessible history, genuine rarity hiding beneath a surface of apparent commonality, the technical challenge of understanding strike quality and surface preservation, the thrill of the hunt in estate sales and old collections, and the very real financial reward that awaits the patient, educated collector who understands what separates a 50-cent circulated Zant example from a certified gem that could command hundreds at auction, and that extraordinary gap, that stunning difference between ordinary and exceptional, is precisely why the 1940 Jefferson nickel deserves your attention, your study, and your respect. If you have learned something shocking and valuable about the 1940 Jefferson nickel today, if your eyes have been opened to the hidden world of condition, rarity lurking inside what most people dismiss as ordinary old coins, then do not keep this knowledge to yourself. Welcome, coin hunters, treasure seekers, and history-obsessed collectors. You are about to discover one of the most breathtaking, jaw-dropping, and shockingly undervalued coins hiding in plain sight across America. A coin that has stunned auction rooms from coast to coast. A coin that could be sitting unrecognized at the bottom of an old jar, buried inside a forgotten drawer, or camouflaged among ordinary pocket change in someone's estate. The legendary, the magnificent, the utterly extraordinary 1941 Jefferson nickel. A 5-cent piece that carries within its tiny copper-nickel frame an enormous, almost unbelievable story of American craftsmanship, wartime urgency, mint-mark mysteries, die variety secrets, and staggering collector demand that has only exploded in intensity decade after decade since the day it first rolled off the presses of the United States. Mint? Cast your mind back to 1941, a year teetering on the razor's edge of world history. America was still locked in the grip of the Great Depression's lingering shadow. Franklin D. Roosevelt was steering a nation desperately trying to recover its footing. And just months after these nickels were struck, the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor would drag the United States into the most catastrophic global conflict the world had ever seen, making the 1941 Jefferson nickel not merely a coin, but a living, breathing, touchable artifact of one of the most pivotal years in human civilization. A coin you can hold in your hand and feel the electricity of history coursing through your fingertips. The Jefferson nickel series itself was born from a dramatic and groundbreaking competition launched in 1938 when the United States Mint, eager to retire the long-running Buffalo nickel design, invited artists to submit proposals honoring Thomas Jefferson, one of America's most revered founding fathers and the brilliant mind behind the Declaration of Independence, and it was the German-born American sculptor, Felix Schlag, whose breathtaking design triumphed, capturing Jefferson's dignified and intellectually commanding portrait on the obverse with a precision and realism that set the coin world absolutely ablaze, while the reverse showcased Jefferson's beloved Virginia estate, Monticello rendered in such architectural detail that collectors immediately recognized they were looking at a miniature masterpiece stamped into metal. A tiny monument to American idealism and Enlightenment-era grandeur that would endure for generations. By 1941, the Jefferson nickel series was only 3 years young, yet already building a devoted collector following. And the production numbers from that year are staggering in their own right. The Philadelphia Mint roared into action, striking an astronomical 403,265,000 nickels with no mint, a production figure that sounds enormous until you understand that wartime demand for coinage was insatiable. As a booming defense industry and a nation preparing for war sent money circulating faster than the mint could possibly keep pace with, Philadelphia's output alone dwarfing the combined production of most earlier nickel series by extraordinary multiples. Yet even these massive numbers could not prevent key date survivors in pristine condition from becoming ferociously contested trophies at auction. But here is where the story transforms, from fascinating into absolutely electrifying. Turn your attention to the San Francisco Mint, that legendary facility nestled in California bearing the tiny but impossibly powerful S Mint mark, which struck just 43,445,000 Jefferson nickels in 1941. And suddenly you have a coin with nearly 5 times fewer examples produced than its Philadelphia cousin, a relative scarcity that sends dedicated numismatists into a frenzy of searching, grading submissions, and competitive bidding whenever a truly spectacular 1941 ES specimen surfaces in the marketplace. And then there is Denver, the 1941D Jefferson Nickel. Produced at the Denver Mint with its unmistakable D Mint mark, contributing 53,432,000 coins to the national supply. Another key piece of the triumvirate that serious collectors absolutely must possess in the finest attainable grades to complete a truly world-class collection. And the 1941D in full steps condition is the kind of coin that makes grown numismatists go weak in the knees, because the Monticello steps on the reverse. Those architectural details that separate a common circulated example from a transcendent numismatic trophy are notoriously difficult to find fully struck on Denver issues from this era, making a certified 1941D Jefferson Nickel with full steps designation from PCGS or NGC, an almost otherworldly rarity commanding prices that shock and astonish even veteran collectors who thought they had seen everything. Let us talk about grading, because this is where the true monetary drama of the 1941 Jefferson Nickel unfolds in ways that will absolutely astonish you. A circulated 1941 Philadelphia nickel in good for condition might trade for just a handful of cents above face value, a humble beginning to a story that then rockets into the financial stratosphere as condition improves. Because a 1941 P. Jefferson Nickel, graded MS65 full steps by PCGS, that coveted designation reserved for coins, display in complete, uninterrupted strike definition across all 5 or 6 steps of Monticello's entrance can command prices well into the hundreds of dollars, while an MS66 full steps example certified by NGC has hammered at auction for sums that leave casual collectors absolutely thunderstruck. And the handful of known MS67 full step specimens represent coins so impossibly perfect, so breathtakingly pristine, that they are treated by the numismatic community with the same reverence normally reserved for old master paintings or museum-quality antiques. The full steps designation itself deserves deeper examination because it is the secret language that separates savvy Jefferson Nickel specialists from the uninitiated, coined by the numismatic community to describe examples where the horizontal lines of Monticello's staircase are fully defined, sharply struck, and completely separated without weakness, blending, or flatness. Full steps Jefferson Nickels are the coins that heritage auctions and Stack's Bowers showcase in their most prestigious sales. The coins that ignite telephone and internet bidding wars among the most sophisticated collectors in the world. The coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of what the United States Mint was capable of producing when everything die, preparation, planchette quality, striking pressure, and sheer circumstance aligned in perfect harmony to create a coin of transcendent beauty and technical perfection. Now let us plunge into the world of varieties and errors, because the 1941 Jefferson Nickel harbors secrets that have driven variety specialists into decades of obsessive searching and cataloging. The Cherry Picker's Guide, that the Bible of repunched, mint marks, double dies, and die varieties, reveals multiple fascinating anomalies within the 1941 issue that can dramatically amplify a coin's value the moment they are identified, with repunched mint marks on both the DNS issues creating visibly doubled or tilted mint mark letters that eagle-eyed collectors can spot with a loupe and immediately recognize as something far more valuable than an ordinary example. Transformee, a modest find into a coin worth multiples of its unvarietized counterpart at auction. The 1941 Jefferson Nickel also occupies a uniquely poignant place in American monetary history because it represents the last full year of peacetime nickel production before the shocking transformation that would arrive in 1942, when the wartime emergency forced the United States to completely eliminate nickel from the 5-cent piece, replacing it with the distinctive silver, copper, and manganese alloy that would forever mark 1942 through 1945. War nickels as a completely separate and fascinating collecting category, meaning that the 1941 Jefferson Nickel stands as the final chapter of an era. The last nickel struck before war changed everything, a historical bookmark frozen in metal. That speaks to the fragility of normalcy in the unstoppable march of global events. Auction records for the 1941 Jefferson Nickel in top certified grades read like a fantasy price guide that ordinary collectors can scarcely believe. Heritage Auctions has repeatedly hammered 1941 ETH MS66 full steps examples for prices that command for figures, with the rarest certified examples in MS67 full steps reaching levels that rival far older and more famous American coins, while Stack's Bowers has witnessed fierce bidding contests for exceptional 1941D full steps, specimens that illustrate precisely how intense collector demand has become for this seemingly humble wartime nickel, a demand fueled by the Jefferson Nickel series' growing prestige among registry set collectors, who compete obsessively for the finest known examples of every date, mint, and variety. The collector community that has formed around Jefferson Nickels is one of the most passionate, knowledgeable, and fiercely competitive in all of American numismatics organizations. Like the Jefferson Nickels Collector Society have cultivated generations of specialists who spend decades studying die varieties, tracking auction appearances, and hunting through dealer inventories and coin show bourse floors for the elusive superstar examples that define a world-class collection. In the 1941 issue consistently ranks among the most discussed, most coveted, and most actively traded dates within this dedicated community. Its combination of historical significance, mint mark variety, full steps rarity, and die variety complexity creating an endlessly fascinating puzzle that rewards both the casual accumulator and the obsessive specialist with equal generosity. We are about to rip the lid off one of the most criminally underestimated, shockingly valuable, and devastatingly overlooked coins in the entire American numismatic universe. The 1946 Jefferson Nickels, a coin that the average person tosses into a jar without a second glance, yet the same coin that has sent seasoned collectors into an absolute frenzy at auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, where certified examples have smashed price records that will make your jaw drop straight to the floor. And before this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why this seemingly innocent 5-cent piece minted the very year that Second World War ended and American soldiers came flooding home to a changed nation is one of the most historically electrifying, potentially wall-exploding coins you could ever hope to find hiding inside a dusty old coin collection, a forgotten box in your grandmother's attic, or even loose change rattling around in your car's center console. Because the story of the 1946 Jefferson Nickels is not just a story about a coin, it is a story about a nation exhaling after the most catastrophic global conflict in human history, a story about a United States mint scrambling to restore normal nickel composition after years of wartime silver alloy production, a story about mintage numbers that are simultaneously massive and yet devastatingly deceptive when you understand what truly separates a common coin from a breathtaking rarity. And here is where things start to get dangerously exciting for collectors. The Philadelphia Mint struck a staggering 161,116,000 pieces of the 1946 Jefferson Nickels, a number so enormous it should logically make this coin worth nothing more than face value. But oh, how wrong and dangerously naive that assumption is. Because while the sheer volume of production would suggest an ocean of available coins, the brutal reality that every serious numismatist knows is that surviving high-grade examples with full steps, that magical designation awarded by PC and NGC2 coins whose Monticello reverse displays 5 or 6 fully struck, sharply defined steps on Jefferson's famous Virginia estate are so impossibly scarce that locating a full step specimen in MS66 or higher is like trying to find a needle in a warehouse full of haystacks. And when these coins do surface, in top-tier condition, it sends shockwaves through the collecting community, with PCGs and NGC population reports revealing that coins graded MS67 full steps from Philadelphia are so extraordinarily rare that the certified population sits in the single digits, meaning there are likely more people reading about these coins than there are coins themselves at that grade level. And before we go any further, let's not forget the two other mints that produced the 1946 Jefferson Nickels, because the Denver Mint unleashed 45,292,200 coins designated by that iconic D-Mint, while the San Francisco Mint, which would soon dramatically reduce and eventually cease nickel production, struck an absolutely haunting 11,600,000 coins carrying the S-Mint mark, making the 1946 Jefferson Nickels the lowest mintage of the 3 1946 issues and a coin that collectors absolutely obsess over. With the 1946 in MS65 full steps commanding prices that will make your eyes water, and Heritage Auctions records show that certified full steps examples from all three mints have repeatedly outperformed estimates by margins that leave even veteran dealers speechless. Because the full steps population is so brutally thin across all three mint facilities that when one appears in a major sale, the bidding war that erupts is nothing short of spectacular. And you need to understand why full steps are so incredibly difficult to find on 1946 Jefferson Nickels. Specifically, it all comes down to die quality and striking pressure at the moment of production, because Jefferson Nickels are notoriously challenging coins to strike up fully, with the obverse portrait of Thomas Jefferson and the reverse Monticello design requiring extraordinary precision and die alignment to transfer every microscopic detail from the die face to the planchet. And in 1946, with the mint transitioning back to the standard 75% copper and 25% nickel composition after years of producing the wartime silver alloy nickels of 1942 through 1945, the striking variables were in constant flux, meaning that full and complete step definition on the Monticello reverse was achieved on a vanishingly small percentage of coins. leaving the presses on any given production day, which is precisely why the discovery of a 1946 Jefferson nickel with 5 or 6 fully struck steps is not merely a pleasant bonus for collectors. It is a seismic event that fundamentally transforms a coin's value from a few dollars to potentially hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the grade, with a raw, circulated example perhaps worth $1 or $2 to a dealer, while a PCGS or NGC certified MS66 full step specimen from the San Francisco Mint could legitimately fetch anywhere from several hundred to over $1,000 in today's red-hot market, where Jefferson Nickels specialists are competing fiercely for every high-grit full steps coin that's. And speaking of the market, let's talk auction results. That will absolutely electrify you because Heritage Auctions has recorded sales of 1946S Jefferson Nickels and MS67 full steps that have hammered at prices exceeding $1,000 for what is essentially a 5-cent coin, while even the more common one, 946P in MS67 full steps, has traded hands in the $400 to $800 range depending on eye appeal and the specific characteristics of the coin's luster and strike quality. And Stack's Bowers has been equally aggressive in facilitating major Jefferson Nickel transactions at their flagship auction events, including the ANA World's Fair of Money sales and the prestigious Americana auctions, where serious-type collectors and Jefferson Nickel specialists alike descend to battle over register-quality specimens. And here is an absolutely critical piece of intelligence that most casual collectors never learn. The PCGS set registry and NGC registry programs have turned Jefferson Nickel collecting into one of the most cutthroat competitive disciplines in all of American numismatics, because serious collectors are spending extraordinary sums to assemble complete Jefferson Nickel sets in the highest possible grades with full steps, designations, and any coin that fills a critical registry gap commands a premium that far exceeds standard price guide values, which means that if you happen to own a 1946 Jefferson Nickel that has never been submitted to a third-party grading service, you are potentially sitting on a completely unrealized fortune without even knowing it. And this is why every single viewer watching this video right now should take any 1946 Jefferson Nickels in their collection and examine them under a loupe or magnifier for signs of original mint luster, sharp strikes, absence of contact marks, and most critically, the step definition on the Monticello reverse. Because even if the coin grades MS64 or MS65 without full steps, it still carries meaningful collector value well above face. And the moment you find full steps on a bright, lustrous, well-preserved example, you should immediately contact PCGS or NGC for professional certification, because the difference between a raw coin and a certified coin in today's market is the difference between receiving dealer pocket change and receiving a legitimate paycheck. And while we are talking about varieties, you absolutely cannot ignore the existence of repunched, mint mark varieties and doubled die obverse specimens that have been documented on 1946 Jefferson Nickels. Because these era coins and variety pieces represent yet another layer of explosive potential value lurking beneath the surface of what appears to be an ordinary date, with certain double die varieties showing dramatic doubling on Jefferson's portrait or the inscriptions that can push values dramatically higher for knowledgeable collectors who know exactly what to look for. And the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties documents several compelling 1946 Jefferson Nickel varieties that routinely fly under the radar of general collectors, while variety specialists snap them up for premium prices the moment they surface in dealer, inventory, or auction lots. Which brings us full circle to the most important lesson this incredible coin has to teach every collector at every level of experience. The 1946 Jefferson Nickel looks like a common coin. It is priced like a common coin in almost every general price guide, and it is treated like a common coin by the vast majority of people who encounter it. Yet hiding within the enormous population of circulated and lightly worn examples are certified treasures in MS66 and MS67 full steps that represent some of the most exciting and rewarding finds in all of modern American coin collecting. Coins that connect us directly to the euphoric, chaotic, exhausted, and hopeful autumn of 1946, when American factory workers punched those coins out of nickel blanks on thundering presses, while the nation outside the mint doors was trying to figure out how to rebuild a world shattered by 6 years of total war. And that historical weight, combined with the numismatic rarity of premium specimens, is precisely what makes the 1946 Jefferson Nickel not just a coin but a time capsule. Not just 5 cents, but potentially $500. And not just a footnote in American coinage history, but one of the most compelling, or rewarding, and shockingly underappreciated treasures waiting to be discovered by anyone smart enough to look past a face value. So if you found this video valuable, give it a massive thumbs up right now, like and share. 1947, Jefferson Nickel, the shockingly overlooked wartime survivor. That could be hiding in your pocket change right now. Welcome, coin hunters, treasure seekers, and numismatic detectives. Because today, we are diving headfirst into one of the most criminally underestimated, jaw-droppingly fascinating, and potentially wallet-exploding coins in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. A coin that millions of Americans touched, spent, and tossed aside without a single clue about the explosive story locked inside that tiny 5-cent piece of American history. Yes, we are talking about the 1947 Jefferson Nickel, a coin struck at not one, not two, but three separate United States mint facilities simultaneously. A coin born in the immediate, chaotic, breathless aftermath of World War II, when America was still trembling with victory and the entire nation was lurching back to normalcy after years of unprecedented sacrifice. And what makes this coin so absolutely electrifying to collectors, historians, and sharp-eyed treasure hunters alike is the staggering complexity buried beneath its seemingly ordinary copper-nickel surface. Because you have to understand that just 2 years before this coin was minted, the United States Mint was still producing nickels with a radically different alloy, the wartime 35% silver composition that was rushed into production in 19 specifically to conserve nickel for tank armor, shell casings, and the relentless machine of Allied warfare. And so the 1947 Jefferson Nickel represents the complete and triumphant restoration of the original 75% copper and 25% nickel composition, making every single 1947 nickel a quiet, unassuming monument to America's return from the most catastrophic conflict in human history. And if that backstory alone doesn't make your pulse race, just wait until you hear the mintage numbers, because the Philadelphia Mint, which struck coins without a mint mark during this era, a detail that confuses and trips up countless beginning collectors every single day, hammered out an almost incomprehensible 95 million examples of the 1947 Jefferson Nickel. 95 million coins flooding into circulation across a nation, hungry to spend, to rebuild, and to forget the rationing and sacrifice of the war years. While simultaneously, the Denver Mint, identifiable by its razor-sharp D mint mark positioned on the reverse just to the right of Monticello's iconic dome, produced another staggering 37,822,000 coins. And rounding out this three-mint extravaganza, the San Francisco Mint added its own S-Mint mark contribution to the tune of 24,720,000 pieces, giving collectors today three completely distinct varieties to hunt, compare, grade, and obsess over. And obsess they absolutely should, because here is where this story transforms from merely interesting into genuinely breathtaking. Because while the sheer volume of 1947 Jefferson Nickels produced might make you assume these coins are worthless, completely common, not worth a second glance, the brutal, unforgiving reality of coin collecting is that mass mintage means nothing, absolutely nothing when you factor in the savage destruction of circulation, the corrosive punishment of pocketware, the careless disregard of a public that simply had no idea these coins would one day become prized collector's items. And the result is that finding a 1947 Jefferson Nickel in truly spectacular, heart-stopping, full steps condition, meaning the 6 horizontal steps leading up to the portico of Monticello on the reverse, are pulley struck, fully separated, and completely undisturbed by weakness or wear, is so vanishingly rare, so astonishingly difficult, that top-tier examples in PCGS or NGC certified MS66 full steps or higher can command prices that would make your head spin, with Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers having recorded sales for the finest Smith-known specimens that shatter any preconceived notion you might have about what a 1947 nickel is worth. Because we are talking about coins that have hammered for hundreds, and in the most extraordinary cases for the 1947 E's full steps coins, potentially thousands of dollars. Yes, thousands of dollars, for a 5-cent coin that might be sitting completely unrecognized in an old jar, a forgotten coin album, or a dusty shoebox in your grandparents' attic right now. And the reason full steps coins are so devastatingly rare for the 1947 issue comes down to a maddening quirk of die production and striking pressure at all three mints. Because the steps of Monticello were the last detail to receive full metal flow during the striking process, meaning that even coins struck fresh from the die and immediately set aside in mint bags frequently show incomplete or mushy step detail. In this production reality, not just wear from circulation, but actual mint stake weakness from the moment of striking is why PCGS and NGC population reports 41947P, 1947D, and 1947S. Full steps coins in the highest grades are shockingly, almost insultingly small. And for collectors who pursue the Jefferson Nickels series with serious intent, cracking these population numbers and landing a coin that earns that coveted full steps designation from either major grading service represents the kind of numismatic triumph that collectors talk about for years. But here is what makes the Jefferson Nickels story even richer, even more layered, even more worth your devoted attention: the era coins, the varieties, the die marriages that numismatic researchers have painstakingly cataloged over decades of obsessive study. Because among the 1947 production run, sharp-eyed variety hunters have identified doubled die obverse coins, where the date, Felix Schl, iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson, or the inscriptions show unmistakable doubling caused by a misaligned hub strike during die preparation. In these double die varieties properly attributed using the cherry-pick guide or the specialized variety resources maintained by the combined organizations of numismatic era collectors of America, can transform an otherwise ordinary 1947 nickel into a dramatically more valuable collectible, a coin that a careless dealer might price at 50 cents in a junk box, but that a knowledgeable collector would immediately recognize and pay a serious premium to acquire. And this is precisely why every single coin hunter watching this video right now should be systematically searching every night. 1947 Jefferson nickel they encounter under at least 5 to 10 times magnification before ever spending it or dismissing it as common, because the difference between an ordinary 1947 nickel and a doubled by variety or an unusually well-struck full steps example can be the difference between pocket change and a genuinely significant numismatic find. And speaking of significant finds, we absolutely cannot discuss the 1947 Jefferson nickel without addressing the profound and deeply emotional historical context that gives this coin its extraordinary human dimension. Because 1947 was the year that the dust of World War II had finally, mercifully begun to settle, the year that returning veterans were flooding back into American life, marrying their sweethearts, starting families that would become the baby boom generation, buying homes through the GI Bill, enrolling in universities, and reaching into their pockets to spend these very nickels on coffee, newspapers, bus fare, and the small daily pleasures that had been so achingly absent during years of war and rationing. And when you hold a 1947 Jefferson nickel in your hand today, you are quite literally touching the same metal that American veterans and their families handled in those optimistic, hope-soaked, early post-war months. And that tangible connection to one of the most pivotal moments in American history is something that no amount of money can fully replicate or replace. It is the invisible magic that transforms a coin from a mere financial instrument into a time machine. A portal. A tiny glittering window into the lived experience of real human beings navigating an extraordinary moment in history. And this is ultimately what the Jefferson Nickels series at its finest represents. Not just mintage numbers and grading populations and auction records, though all of those things matter enormously to serious collectors, but a physical, holdable, real piece of the American story. And the 1947 issue sits at one of the most emotionally resonant chapters of that story. The chapter of survival and renewal and the stubborn, irrepressible human capacity to rebuild after catastrophe. So whether you are a seasoned numismatist who has been assembling a complete Jefferson nickel data mintmark set for decades, or a brand new collector who just stumbled across a beautiful 1947 in grandma's old collection and started Googling what it might be worth, the message from this channel is always the same. Learn the coins deeply, grade them honestly, protect them properly. In PCGS or NGC certified holders, if they are worthy, consult the auction records at Heritage Auctions and Stacks, Bowers, before you buy or sell anything significant. And above all, never stop looking, never stop learning, and never stop learning, and never, ever assume that the coin sitting in front of you is ordinary, until you have given it the serious, magnified, fully informed examination it deserves, because the next jaw-dropping find in the Jefferson Nickels series might be sitting in your collection right now. And if you want to make sure you never miss a video that could help you find it, smash that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so YouTube alerts you the moment our next coin is revealed. And drop a comment below telling us whether you've ever found a full steps Jefferson nickel or a dramatic variety in the wild. Because in the world of numismatics, the hunt never ends, the surprises never stop.